So often we want to have the external and the veneer and the exterior of things look good. I see this so often, people would rather have the outside look good, but the integrity, the internal, the foundations are degrading and they're not solid foundations. And I always like to extrapolate things to nature. You can have an apple seemingly nice and ripe on the outside. It can be shiny and red and look like it's crisp. And you take a bite into it, and at the core is rotten, you know? Now, this is something that we can see happen a lot with people and things, and trying to replace the internal work with exterior, superficial, accessories almost to kind of coat what they lack on the inside. Now, I don't talk about everything I do on this channel, but let's just say in one capacity, I work in the music industry and I work closely with a particular artist on the managerial side of things. And I'll never forget this story. Oftentimes management's role is essentially ensuring that the artist can just focus on the music. So it's managing the relationship with videographers, producers, and booking studio sessions. So one thing that's important for artists that are on the come up is getting their reps in the studio. If you're an athlete, you get your reps up in the gym, or you practice cone drills, etc. With musicians, they have to do it in a slightly different way, and they have to ensure that they're in the studio consistently. So we've booked in a studio session, and I'm encouraging this artist to build relationships with different producers, different engineers, and different artists, local artists. Now, he happens to know a few guys that are getting into the music space, and he's invited them to a studio session. So with a fairly credible engineer, I've gone to the studio session, and the reason I don't talk about the managerial side of things is because a lot of people, again, they like the veneer of things. They like to say, I'm a manager, or yeah, a lot of people like to say I'm a rapper. But what does that really mean? It's not as glamorous as it looks. When you're actually doing the work, you realize that it's not as glamorous as it sounds. So they're there in the studio and we're having a conversation, and it comes on to the concept of jewelry, the idea of jewelry. And in particular, the artist that I'm working with, he's quite health conscious and aware of certain things on a deeper level. And he's talking about an investment that he's made, not in jewelry, but in his toothbrush. And he was telling them that he'd spent £500 on his electric toothbrush. And I remember the shock on their faces when they're like, what? They're making almost a joke of it. Like, you spent £500 on a toothbrush. But in the same breath, they were talking about buying grills and having diamond encrusted grills. For anyone that's not familiar with what a grill is essentially a gold mold that goes over your teeth, and then they'll indent little holes in it and put diamonds in it to essentially give the illusion of the shine. Well, not the illusion. If they're real diamonds, they do shine, but you're essentially covering your real teeth. And I just found it fascinating, the concept that they were mocking someone for investing in something that they need to do every day, twice a day. And it's the foundations of your face. Your teeth are not going anywhere. Once you go past adolescence and you have your adult teeth come in, they're the teeth that you'll have for the rest of your life. And we're talking about, really, on the grand scheme of things, investing a menial amount to maintain your image, your teeth, your smile, your face. And it just always brings me back to the concept that people would rather cover the foundations and cut corners, and they'd actually spend more in something that's detrimental for them over the long term, but it's under the guise that it's something that's reasonable, or it's a certain image that needs to be upheld. So I didn't really want to delve into the conversation, because sometimes when I sit in rooms, should I say, I like to just sit and observe. Even starting this channel is relatively new for me. People say, how do you articulate yourself like this? It's because I've been a listener for so long. For such a long period of time, I've been someone that will listen, recognize patterns, collate and collect the information, and then that allows me to sort of perceive things through a unique perspective. So I didn't really bring it up at the time, but I just thought it would be interesting to share with you guys, like how all of us can fall victim to this. Maybe not at such a capacity, but in different ways, where you may think once you obtain a piece of jewelry or you obtain a piece of clothing, you're going to feel some sort of happiness. But that exterior validation is never going to make up for what you do internally and the foundations of the work. And I think the idea that, investing in that toothbrush, that electric toothbrush that seemingly is expensive, is something that's going to pay dividends in the future. So you're actually saving yourself money long term, and you're saving yourself pain down the line. And this can be extracted into many different parts of your life in regards to just your general health and well-being. So imagine you're spending this amount initially up front, but that's potentially preventing you from having to have a root canal, or having cavities, or your teeth decaying, or having certain gum infections that down the line will cost you money, and it's going to cost you time, and it's also going to be extremely painful. There's so many ways you can look at it. You can you're even going to endure potential infection. And now we're talking about putting something over your teeth that's going to do the opposite. So it seemingly looks like you have the shiny teeth, when you could have just invested a fraction of the money in something that you're going to use every single day consistently, that's going to support and maintain the health and wellness and your oral and dental hygiene. Yeah, I just find it fascinating, so, like, maybe leave in the comments a time in your life where you fell victim to thinking that one of the external things or an external source is going to compensate for an internal deficiency. We're talking about people that were literally, they didn't even have straight or white teeth, talking about putting something over their original teeth to give the illusion that they've got some sort of money or that there's some sort of level of abundance. And it just comes down to the concept that they don't internally value themselves. Because if you do, you wouldn't do things that harm you, and you wouldn't invest in things that don't make sense and are not going to feed into you and nourish you. It's very short term thinking. It's very short-sighted thinking, and it was just fascinating to see that. But the reason I bring up that story and that point is because that can be extrapolated beyond just the culture. That's a pretty extreme case, but it's not a fake story. It's a very real story. It sounds like an extreme case, but this can happen with a lot of things, whether it be down to, excessive makeup, fake hair, things where you're applying something that's not real over the real you. The amount of women that I see compromising their skin by putting layers of makeup, which are synthetic products, over their original skin, clogging their pores, covering up spots, rather than targeting the initial issue, or rather than letting their face breathe, is kind of the idea of putting things over the veneer and encasing yourself in essentially things that are false and fake. It's something that I want to see change within the culture, but also just within, the general population, for people to actually start investing in things that are going to be beneficial. Look, again, I don't want to put it all on the women. I gave one for the guys, which is, the grills and the chains and the jewelry. But the women, putting glue. You're literally putting glue on your eyelashes to stick false eyelashes on your eyelashes, damaging your real lashes. Or you're putting nails you're putting fake nails on top of your real nails, compromising the health, stripping layers off. It's crazy. We've got people putting synthetic wigs on their real hair. Now, a wise man once said, it is no sign of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And what he means by that is, it doesn't mean that you're good or you're well just because you accept certain things that are plaguing society. It's no sign of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And honestly, a lot of these things that are considered to be the norm are sick. They're not natural acts, and they go against the foundations that are going to really make you thrive as an individual, which is going to be the simple things. Not adding fake hair, not adding makeup onto your face and clogging your pores, not sticking things onto your nails or sticking things onto your eyelashes, not putting, you know, things over your teeth. Let's work on the foundations. Let's work on who you truly are. Let's really accept who you truly are. Acceptance is a higher frequency than desire. Accept who you are. Let it go. Accept that you are that person. Accept that you may have some flaws, but you can fix them. Accept that it's going to potentially take longer, but it's going to benefit you. And that benefit is going to compound over time. The problem with a lot of the superficial short-term things is that they're actually going to be a detriment to you over time. They're going to be a bill over time, and they're going to degrade your health over time. The opposite way around is going to be harder up front initially. You're going to face more resistance. It's potentially going to be more of a challenge for you. But you get the compound of what you invested in, that initial resistance. You're going to get paid for that over the long period of time. For example, you may find it difficult going from a manual toothbrush to an electric toothbrush, or you may find it difficult going from not flossing your teeth to flossing your teeth. You have to break that initial habit, or should I say, incorporate that habit into your schedule and your programming. But once you've got it unlocked, you're going to get the benefit from facing that resistance when someone says, wow, you've got such nice teeth. Now, as an example, I'm somebody, I've never had braces. I've never had any of these, like my teeth are natural, literally. But it's because I'm getting the reward, I'm getting the dividends of an input or an investment that I made consistently over a long period of time. Does that make sense? So yeah, I just thought I'd share that story with you. I might share some more insights from the music industry, or times where I'm in little studio sessions or whatnot. Let me know if you'd find that interesting. But that story I just thought could extrapolate is one of the most poignant examples I have of people trying to overcompensate in certain areas rather than just tackling the root, doing the thing that's difficult. And the funniest thing is, when you really break it down, it's not even that difficult. We're talking about an electric toothbrush. That means that half the job is done for you. A manual toothbrush, it can't move at the frequency. The bristles cannot tackle the plaque the same way an electric one can. So if anything, it's even easier. A lot of these things are actually easier. It's easier to have a healthy body. It's easier to have a healthy body because you're investing in it now, and that's gonna it's gonna actually allow you to live longer. It's harder to be gluttonous and then have these health problems and implications down the line. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know of any examples where you've seen this, or maybe perhaps you've done it yourself. And hopefully we can all kind of lean towards the direction of being a lot more natural and accepting who we are, our current status, the things that we have to work on, and just chipping away at it day by day. And then having the benefits of enjoying the fruits of our labor down the line if we're fortunate enough to see them. But yeah, man, let's go. You got it.